Hi guys, today we're taking a deep dive into Solana ecosystem, namely Drift, which is positioning itself to become not just the main perpetuals DEX on Solana ecosystem, but also diversifying into a one-stop shop for all your DeFi needs on Solana, as well as a super obvious trade which you can actually execute on Drift itself near the end of the video. Let's get started. First things first, a super quick overview of everything that's been happening on SOL for the last couple of years. So it was a really scalable, fast blockchain. It had its moment in the sun last bull market when it reached a peak of $258. But as bear market started and the FTX debacle of late 2022 happened, its ecosystem and the price of the token itself, as well as total value locked on chain, was suffering dramatically. However, builders kept building, people kept their belief, and it took about 1 year for the whole ecosystem to slowly, gradually start recovering. With the Ditto explosion of late 2023, when the TVL really started skyrocketing, it brought more attention, more fees, more everything on Solana blockchain, and it is very accompanying with the price of the token itself. As you can see, it had a really horrifying bear market, but it has recovered beautifully. In fact, only last week we have smashed through previous all-time high of 258 to achieve a new all-time high for Solana for $264. Now, how does Drift accompany all of this? We are always looking at market leaders. So if we're looking at Solana, we have a clear market leader in the DEX, which is Radium. We have a clear market leader of DEX aggregation, and that is Jupiter. There is a bit of a mix what is the best place to yield farm on Solana, but my personal favorite is Meteora. You have also Orca, but Meteora might be the best when it comes to risk to reward ratio. And if we're looking at perpetuals DEXs, there is only a handful of choices, but Drift is clearly positioning itself to be a market leader, not just from all the new utilities we're going to be talking about, but also from their token perspective as well. And from Tokenomics perspective, we can see that 53% of whole token supply is actually reserved for community and ecosystem, out of which, of course, 10% was already distributed for the airdrop earlier this year, for the launch airdrop, but a huge amount of 43% is still reserved for ecosystem development and trading rewards. And from the token perspective, when it comes to price, we can see that it's actually doing very well recently, and you generally want to be positioned in tokens that have two main criteria. First things first, you want to take a look at market cap and fully diluted valuation. Here you can see that the current circulating supply of Drift is 257 million Drift tokens, and total supply is 1 billion. That means that 1/4 of whole Drift supply is currently on the market, and generally that would not be a great thing. However, considering that almost half or 43% remaining of the whole token supply is actually reserved for community, this is actually not such a bad thing. Now, regarding the price movement itself, you can see that here on November 8th, when it was listed on Upbit exchange, so the main centralized exchange in Korea, it shot up incredibly. It pumped super hard for 400%, almost 4x from the whole price that it had most of the bear market. And when I'm looking at tokens, I always want to position myself in those that have great news reflexivity, that have great price reflection to news. So this means that if a token gets listed on Coinbase or Binance, or apparently Upbit is an incredible catalyst as well, and the price moves 5-10%, I don't want to be in that token because that means that there's no demand for it. But when a token shoots up in price 4x on an exchange listing, that's a token that I definitely want a certain part of my portfolio to be allocated in. Now, let's say you want to do stuff on SOL, but you have never done so before. You're going to need a wallet. You need either Phantom or Backpack or Solflare. Those are all great options. Personally, my favorite choice is Backpack because they usually have great partnerships with many Solana projects to give extra incentives. Now, let's say you have some funds on EVM chains or anywhere. You can use Jumper. Jumper is one of the best bridge aggregators out there. You can get your ETH from Arbitrum or many other networks. You can simply bridge into Solana using their router that goes through Mayan Finance. Now, once you have your funds on Solana, once your wallet is ready, once your seed phrase is safe, then all you have to do is go to Drift's official website. There's going to be a referral link in the description of the video. We always post all the links we talk about in all the videos in the first link of the description of the video. So in this case, you're going to need to make a Drift account. Everything on Solana costs something called rent, because until April 2025 at least, we're going to have to pay a rent to be using Solana blockchain, which means that it's going to cost about 0.03 SOL to actually get this rent fee sorted for a Drift account. You need to fund it, and then once your funds are in, then you can start playing around with Drift. One quick note on this Solana rent thing: if you want to unlock some of your Solana rent that's actually being used by tokens you can compress these, you can close these token accounts. And if you've been using Sol for like 1 or 2 years, I actually found almost $300 of value just from closing these token accounts. This is done on Sol Incinerator. We've already talked about this before, but you can literally unlock hundreds of dollars if you've been using Sol for a while, simply for closing these accounts. It's not burning your NFTs. It is simply making a different token standard in your wallet. And this is a great way to get some extra liquidity, which you can of course use in all the ways we're going to discuss very, very soon. Right, so you've set up your account, and before we figure out how, let's figure out first why should we even bother using Drift. Well, first things first, their airdrop number 1 was actually really good. It was one of the few 4-figure airdrops for most of us in Solana ecosystem, and they're actually rewarded early participation and activity very, very handsomely. Now, we are still early for the Fuel program, which launched a couple months ago, and if you want to participate, here's what you can expect. From Drift staking, you're going to be generating 10 fuel for every Drift staked for 28 days. And regarding volume, for each $1 in taker or maker volume, you're going to be getting 1 fuel for every dollar in these volumes. We also have some active boosters all the time, such as, for example, depositing their liquid staked Sol Drift Sol, which is also going to get you 5 fuel for every dollar deposited for 28 days. Now, let's see about the perpetuals. Here you can see that they actually have a huge array of services such as Perp, Spot, Swap, even meme coin swap, because, of course, attention economy and meme coins on Solana is the way to go. But in all seriousness, we can just take a quick look at perpetuals. Here you can see they have a huge amount of tokens that you can trade. You can primarily, of course, Solana tokens such as WIF, Mother, Tensor, W, many others. But you can also have blue chips such as Bitcoin ETH, Sol, Peanut is even listed here, Goat. You will find a lot of beautiful Solana meme coins on leverage here. Of course, be very responsible with this. If you're not a trader, be very careful with leverage. Stop losses are a friend. I've never used stop losses in summer. 5K down later. Stop losses are your friend. Now, in all seriousness, this is a standard perpetuals exchange. If you simply choose the amount that you want to bet, you choose the amount of leverage, left, right, very straightforward, nothing special. If you want to long Sol at these rates, you press here. You also have a limit order. If you want to make sure that your entry gets filled at a certain price point, if you believe that Solana is going to get to maybe 230, you can set a limit order for 230 and it's going to get executed as soon as Sol reaches this price or under. And finally, let's explore some yield opportunities on Drift. As you can see in the Earn tab, there are many options, but we're going to focus primarily on lending and borrowing and vaults. When it comes to lending and borrowing, you can see that there are some really nice APRs here on many of these lending options. For example, stablecoins are the ones I'm looking primarily because you can see 32% on USDC and 22% on USDS. You also have PYUSD, which is PayPal USD on Solana, and USDS is actually Maker DAO. It's no longer called DAI. They've rebranded into Sky, and they have deployed on Solana recently. They're actually giving crazy high APY when it comes to looping because, of course, if you're going to be using these strategies, you need to be very careful. If you're just going to deposit and generate this APR, you are more or less safe. However, if you want to maximize your capital efficiency, you want to use something called looping strategies, but these can be very tricky because it is always recommended to use correlated assets. So you're either going to be using stable coins, so you deposit USDC, borrow USDS, or any combination of these things that generates the highest yield. If you're going to be using with something like Sol, it is highly recommended to use a liquid stake token to borrow against because this Sol and Sol, for example, should, in theory, always move together. There have been actually cases in history when freaking stablecoins depegged as well. If you remember March 2023 with banks getting in trouble, USDC went to 80 cents. So always there are risks in DeFi, and always only use the money that you can really, be okay without in case worse happens. But of course, we are optimists here, and USDC, if you're going to be using this strategy, you can deposit USDC for 32% deposit APR, and then you go simply in the borrow tab and you can borrow against this USDC. For example, yes, so you go in the borrow tab and you can find that USDS is only charging you around 10% borrow APR. So you're netting a whole 20+% APY just from this simple strategy. Then how many times you're going to do this in circles depends on your risk tolerance, but this is a very potentially good lucrative strategy if you are feeling bearish about the market and you want some stablecoin exposure on Solana. And finally, if you want some more hands-free approach, you have the vaults option under Earn tab as well. Here you can see many different vaults executing many different DeFi strategies on your behalf and generating a very juicy APY between 37 to even 106% in the case of this turbocharger. So you get exposure to SOL, BTC, ETH, and Jupe. So if you're feeling that these assets are going to be appreciating in value over the next couple of weeks and months, then maybe this is a very good yield opportunity as well. And for those of you who watched till the end, here is a great resource you can use to help you on your trading journey. It's Tokenomics, and here you can see all the token unlocks that are happening, which can really help you decide whether a certain short position is worth taking. For example, in about 11 days that you're watching this video, there's going to be a huge Jito unlock, dropping a whopping 103% of the current supply on the market. That means that the amount of tokens on the market is going to double. And since in most cases, this supply is actually from early investors who got in super early, who got at super small prices, it means usually that it actually signals a huge sell-off on the market. Last time this happened, it was with Aevo, and Aevo dropped about 88 or 90% of its total supply on the market. And of course, the price tanked from like $1.2 all the way to 80 cents. It was the easiest short of the galaxy. We might be looking at something similar with Jito. Of course, there are many other factors, such as, of course, project's utility and everything else. But if you're looking to short Jito, maybe take a close look at this date. There's going to be around December 5th, 6th, something like that. You need to take a look and position accordingly. And that's a wrap regarding all the updates for Drift for today. If you want to stay up to date, make sure to follow them on their X account, as well as an active Discord community. Speaking of which, we also have our own private community of DeFi degens, traders, DeFi yield enthusiasts. We talk all things crypto, DeFi, airdrops, and a high-performing network of individuals, such as this one, is invaluable in the bull market. If you have any questions or comments, make sure to drop them in the comment section below. If you like the content, make sure to like and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching. Have an amazing day.